Inside here is a 1200-year-old Viking ship.
The new Viking Age Museum in Oslo, set to open in a few years from now, will be a world-class museum, highlighting the best preserved Viking ships in the world, together with thousands of Viking artifacts. The goal of the new museum is to recreate the Viking Age in a modern and interactive way. The new museum will be an extension of the old Viking Ship Museum, adding more than 13,000 square meters of new floor space and 5,500 square meters of exhibition space. Statsbygg, a Norwegian government agency, are in charge of planning and building the new museum complex, while architects are responsible for the design.
Hi, I'm Paul from Norway, and today I'm going to give you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the new Museum of the Viking Age here in Oslo.
But first, let's have a look at the old museum, known as the Viking Ship Museum, which was built in 1926 to exhibit the Oseberg Viking ship. This ship is about 1200 years old and was used as a burial ship for two women in the year 834. This ship is known as one of the best preserved ever discovered. To make space for two more ships, the Gokstad and Tusen ships, an extension was added to this building in 1932. The final extension was added in 1954 to make space for more artifacts. Due to old preservation methods and poor climate control inside the old museum, some of the ships, sleds and other artifacts have started to deteriorate. However, with new technology and with the new museum, we hope to be able to preserve these historical treasures for future generations. Now let's take a look inside the old museum, and we'll learn more about the rig that will be used to move the ships into the new museum part. To explain this, I met by Anders Helseth, who works here as a conservator.
You have just unzipped a big Viking ship for us. I'm not used to seeing it like this, with all this metal around it. What's going on here?
We are building a huge new museum building right next to the old one. Building project of that magnitude creates a lot of vibrations with the huge machines moving around, all the earth being moved. So that's why we have a rig that's so massive. It weighs about 50 metric tons that we have built around the Oseberg ship.
And at some point you're going to move this ship into the new building.
We've built a gantry system. We'll have two very powerful hoists. We'll lift the entire rig up, and the suspended rig with the ship inside will be moved slowly into the new museum. We accepted a maximum of 3 millimeters of bending over a 25-meter long ship.
And I'm sure when this ship was at sea, it would bend much.
It would bend a lot more. I'm sure it would bend 30 centimeters, exactly, probably. Yeah. But it can't take that anymore.
You brought me to the side of the ship here. What is this?
Yes, this is one of the 4 supports that carry the whole rig. When the rig was built around the ship, we lifted it 30 centimeters or a foot for your American viewers. Now it's resting on these pneumatic dampeners here. So we have a system of air compressors coupled to sensors that regulate the height above the floor and also the tilt of the rig in both axes. If any kind of movement happens, and it actually does, then it's auto-correcting.
And this is custom made. This is not something you can order off the shelf anywhere.
No.
Next, Anders brings me into a room where we observe 3 sleds found on the Oseberg ship and are today some of the most important artifacts in the museum's collection.
There's uncountable man-hours in the carvings. They were probably painted in bright colors, brass and silvered studs all over them.
Are there any concerns about the preservation of these sleds?
They did the best they could 100 years ago. They used alum salt to impregnate the wood and stabilize it. But sadly that didn't work too well, and the alum salt also turned acidic over time.
So the wood basically deteriorated from the inside?
From the inside, yes.
How are they kept together?
Glue, iron screws, brass screws, lots of brackets.
And were these pulled by horses, most likely?
Yeah, well, I would like to say wolves or lynxes, perhaps.
So right now I'm at a storage facility where they hold several thousands of the objects that are going into the new Viking ship museum.
To introduce me to some of the artifacts, I met up with Hanne Lovise Ånnestad, who works as an archaeologist and archaeological collection manager at the University of Oslo's Museum of Cultural History.
It feels a bit like Christmas Eve here.
Yeah.
You call it for the Buddha bucket. Why is that?
Yeah, it was a name that was given during the excavation by Gabriel Gustavsen, who was the leader. And he thought that the handles looked like small Buddhas, but it's actually not Buddhas. It's an old Celtic symbol.
And then they found it on the ship, on the Oseberg ship.
Well, it was found inside the burial chamber together with the two women that were buried there and together with a lot of kitchen equipment. But it is a showpiece.
Yeah.
The next artifact is one of my personal favorites.
Go ahead, unwrap it.
Yeah. This is the nicest rattle. It was 5 rattles in the Oseberg burial. It consists of 2 shafts and these rings. And when you move it fast, I won't do that, but if you do that, there comes this clinging sound.
It looks a bit like those IQ tests, you know, how to get the rings off.
Yeah, we don't get them off at all. They are considered to be some sort of rhythmic or musical instrument.
Yeah.
Hanne brought out another wooden object, known as an animal head post.
We have 5 of these objects that we call animal head posts or animal heads. And they were fastened to the rattles. The rattles were fastened with rope, and the rope from one rattle to the next went through the mouth.
And finally, a Viking sword.
I'm standing with a real Viking sword. This is a big moment. I know we have a lot of these swords in your collection, right?
We have about 1,600 swords. Some of the swords are clearly damaged, probably during burial rituals, intentional destruction of the weapon. The burial rituals could be quite violent, with the killing of animals and the destruction on a funeral pyre. We know that they had ideas about the warrior in the afterlife in Valhall.
All right, I got my protective gear on and it's time to finally go inside and see what the new museum will look like.
At the construction site of the new museum part, I'm greeted by Göran Jorid from the Museum of Cultural History, who works here as a project manager.
I det gamle museet så stilte vi ut litt I overkant av 300 gjenstander, mens I det nye museet så har vi litt over 5200 gjenstander da. Her bygges det for fullt nå for å bli en arena for formidling. Og det blir et eget område I bygget borti der, som for skoleklasser. Og da kan de også bruke dette området da, til aktiviteter og oppgaver. Kan du skyte bue eller kaste øks under kontrollerte forhold. Det kan være vikingkamp, og vi kan også ha konserter inni her da.
Så man kan sitte her, drikke en kaffe og se viking rollespill utspille seg der.
From the courtyard we enter into the new museum building, which is linked together with the existing building by a glass extension. This is where our journey into the Viking Age will begin, starting with the sleds that we saw earlier.
Ja, her ser man fotavtrykket av en av sledene I en monter som da klimatisert. Disse tingene må jo også være tilgjengelige for forskningen. Man må kunne gjøre vedlikehold på den, så det går jo å åpne opp hele det monteret. Så det her på vei mot Osebergskipet.
Another exciting exhibit is named The Thousand Swords. and will be the largest exhibit of artifacts, showing 400 Viking swords rising from the ground and up. Before looking at where the ships will stand, we head down into the basement to check out the extensive ventilation and fire extinguishing system. This will ensure optimal temperature and humidity control for the ships and artifacts, preserving them for the coming generations.
Det går et rør herifrån og ned til Langviksbukta ut i Oslofjorden, pumper opp vann, nå for å varme opp hele anlegget her.
The highlight of the museum will be the Oseberg, Gokstad and Tune Viking ships, which will be placed in separate rooms with plenty of space around, and the video will be projected onto the walls, viewing platforms to see the ships from different angles, making the ship's history come alive.
Her blir Gokstadskipet stående. Det er jo 600 kvadratmeter stort rom. Nå er vi inne i det klimatiserte bygget, som tåler 500 års jordskjelv. Nå kommer vi ut av det nye bygget og så inn i det gamle bygget. Så hele publikumsflyten er jo som en sirkulær bevegelse.
Tusen takk for at du har tatt meg med rundt.
Tusen takk, veldig hyggelig.
Jo, takk. Så ses vi igjen når museet åpner. This is going to be a world-class museum. We still have to wait for a few years, but it's going to be well worth it. Thanks a lot for watching this episode. If you want to support my work, check out my Patreon page. And until next time, ha det bra!